Find support and alt season is kicking up, and this is your daily market news analysis for August 27th, 2025. If you're new here, I'm Ski. I go over the daily market news analysis, go over my price predictions. I'm not perfect, but I'll put my track record up against anybody. And let's start it off with Bitcoin. Reacting positively, finding support off of the 50 moving average on the daily. This is a very key level, very important, and we like to see that. Also, what we can see, we've been talking a lot about the moving averages. Whenever you see the 20 EMA on top of the 100, on top of the 50, on top of the 20, that is the most bullish posture. And as long as you're in that posture, which, by the way, Bitcoin is not even close to crossing. In order to cross, like, you need to get coiled up like this. But even then, like, the 200 at no point got on top. If you get coiled up and then the 200 gets on top, that's when you're flipping to a bear market. Right now, Bitcoin is not even close. And what we can see is this whole box right here is basically what used to be the ceiling. Bitcoin is just back testing it for the third time as support, making sure it's really support. This is a very, very good sign. You could also say that this is Wyckoff reaccumulation with your selling climax, your secondary test in phase B, which goes lower. I expect us to range here for Bitcoin. The thing that we talked about, though, that I'm very, very encouraged with, that's happening with XRP, that's happening with Ethereum, while Bitcoin is ranging, the others, Ethereum, XRP, is moving higher, significantly higher. And we're going to talk about that later in this video. Short term, what I would like to see for Bitcoin is getting back to 115,000. This would be confirmation of support, and we would get back on the 5-hour 200 EMA, which is a big deal. Ultimately, if that were to happen, what would happen with Bitcoin is we're going to test the bottom of the range. And I have these 3 dates here circled, and these are very important because what we can see out of Ethereum versus Bitcoin, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the same exact dates. I have them circled. Each time Bitcoin interacts with the bottom of this range, Ethereum is significantly higher. And this is a massive, massive, massive domino to fall as far as alt season. What do we need? We have criteria that we need for alt season to take place. Criteria number 1 is Bitcoin getting into price discovery. Okay. And when I was talking about this, April 7th, 2025, I said that the bottom is in, boys. The next stop is $118,000 or I will shave my beard. April 7th, 2025, Bitcoin was at 75K. And the reason I had $118,000 marked out was because that is price discovery. Okay. So step number 1 for alt season is Bitcoin must be in price discovery. Step number 2 is we're going to start to rotate from Bitcoin into the other altcoins. So this is the roller coaster ride, which is cryptocurrency. You go from fiat, dollars, euros, whatever, government money, into Bitcoin. That is the longest part of the ride. Then you start to rotate into Ethereum and XRP. Generally, what you see is from the time that Bitcoin goes into price discovery until the end of the run, Bitcoin only does a small move. And I'll give you an example from 2021. This is the moment when Bitcoin goes into price discovery. It was January 6, 2021. From the C19 crash until January 6, 2021, when Bitcoin structurally was in price discovery, Bitcoin did a 10x. Okay. There is not a coin that I have found at January 6, 2021 that was not at its bear market lows, near its bear market lows, or below its bear market lows. That is the fallacy that we have in our brain that Bitcoin was pumping, everything was pumping. That's not reality. That's our feelings. That is not facts. That is our delusion. That is not data points. The data points shows us that Bitcoin went into price discovery first and then started to distribute into other coins, aka it only does another 50% move from here. But from this 50% move, that's when Ethereum does a 5x. That's when others does a 10x. That's when HBAR does a 39x. It wasn't a second before that. And that's what we're seeing. Like, Bitcoin is chopping. And what do we see from Ethereum? Ethereum is rising. This is a major domino to fall in the category of, rotation into the altcoins with our cryptocurrency market flow. So Bitcoin going into price discovery, check. Then we start to see Ethereum and XRP rise as Bitcoin is chopping, as Bitcoin dominance is falling. Check. Bitcoin dominance is in a full-on bear market at this point. We can see today, actually, the 200, just like we talked about, 200 being on bottom, 100, 50, 20. That's a full-on bull market. When you have the opposite, which is the blue moving average, dark blue on top, the light blue second, which is technically not today, but it will be tomorrow. Even with a big move, even if Bitcoin dominance were to pump up to 62% tomorrow, which it's not going to happen, it would still cross even tomorrow. So by Thursday or Friday, this is going to cross to the downside, and we're going to be in a full-on bear market. And we're seeing that from Ethereum. Ethereum is up 50% higher today than it was the first time Bitcoin was at $110,000. It doesn't feel like that, but that's the reality of where we're at in the moment. Everything that we've been charting, everything that we've been talking about is finally, slowly, surely, exponentially taking place. Right now is absolutely not the time to be shaken by fear or greed. And listen, this is my advice to you, some free bits of advice. I am one person to take action always take action. However, we should never be making decisions about our portfolio based off of fear, based off of greed. If you're making decisions based off of fear that you think it's going to go down worse, you're being manipulated by market makers. If you're making decisions based off of greed, you're being manipulated by market makers, and I almost never see it work out. You should be making decisions based off of fundamental analysis, based off of technical analysis, based off of risk to reward, what's best for you, your family, like that. It should never be, oh my God, we crashed 7%, I need to sell. It should never be, oh my God, we're up 20%, I need to buy. That's always the wrong answer. But for me, fundamentally, technically, everything that we've been talking about for months and months and months, it is happening. The next thing that we're going to start to see is others, aka everything outside of the top 10. In my opinion, from now until the end of before rate cuts, I think that others catches up to the 702 Fibonacci retracement, which is about $380 billion market cap, I believe. Let's take a look here. This is the wrong one. Okay, so others is basically what people think about when they think about altcoins. Others is just a basket of coins, all of their market caps combined from 11, 12, 13, all the way down. So catching up to the 702 is essentially what I think is going to happen. And the reason that I think that that's going to happen is because of the money flow. I've been saying this for months. Bitcoin is ahead of Ethereum. Ethereum is ahead of others. So the very first thing that happened from 75K was, and we'll show this, Bitcoin, and we're just going to show how I think that it's behind. Bitcoin went from 75K, which was Wyckoff accumulation, and then it goes to the 702 Fibonacci retracement. All right, on the top is others. On the bottom is Bitcoin. Bitcoin was first, then Ethereum, and then others to me is lagging behind Ethereum. But from the top to the bottom, you go into Wyckoff accumulation, which is a bottoming structure, which is right here. We can see this is a accumulation, a bottoming structure. That's exactly what Bitcoin did. That's why April 7th, 2025, I was confident that the bottom was in, because this is Wyckoff accumulation. From there, from the spring, we went to the 702 Fibonacci retracement, okay? And I saw the exact same structure playing out with Ethereum, but it just looked behind. And I'm going to show that, and then we'll show others. All right, so now on top is others, in the middle is Bitcoin, on the bottom is Ethereum, and what I'm presenting to you is my base case is Bitcoin is ahead of Ethereum by 1 or 2 beats, and then Ethereum is 1 or 2 beats ahead of others, which is historically that is true. So we had a Wyckoff accumulation, we had a break from the spring, we chopped here for a little bit. That's the exact same thing that happened, but it was delayed for Ethereum. As you can see, I am further on in the charts. So this was in April for Bitcoin. The chopping took place in May for Ethereum. Okay. Then you pump to one leg higher and start chopping again at the retracement. Pump one leg higher, again, delayed. Now this is in the chopping one leg higher was April through May for Bitcoin. And the chopping one leg higher was May through June for Ethereum. That's when we got to our retrace. And then you go higher for a double top. Same thing. That's phase 3 for Bitcoin. Double top, attempting to break out, really struggling there. And that was the next phase from May through June for Bitcoin. And that is the phase that we're at basically right now for Ethereum. Okay. So Ethereum is still a beat or two behind Bitcoin. And others, to me, is basically at this phase right here, phase 2 of this, of the sort of the staircase, the way it's up. The next thing it's going to do is get to its full-on retracement before then attempting to get your double tops, your triple tops of fighting with the all-time high. So basically, it's doing the exact same thing. It's just a couple of beats behind Ethereum, which is just a couple of beats behind Bitcoin. And this is beautiful. This is exactly how I'm going to be playing my positions moving forward. But the important thing is, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. If you're new here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you never miss a video. If you want to set up a personalized exit strategy, you can hit me in the DMs on Instagram or Telegram for that. I will never message you first, but that's going to be it for this time. Peace, love, prosperity, God first, God bless. I'm out.